Hey there, I'm Ryan Pierce with APTV. We hope you're safe. Thank you for watching. Today we chat with the band Girlfriends, headed by Travis Mills. You may know him as T Mills from back in the day, and his friend, Big Noise co-founder and a phenomenal musician, Nick Gross, along with the legendary producer, John Feldmann. Girlfriends has their first album coming out on October 9th. They have two singles out right now, Eyes Wide Shut in California. And Travis tells us why he wanted to get back into the public spotlight with Girlfriends and why he's so excited about this new project. And both Nick and Travis had a lot of fun working with an icon of theirs, John Feldmann. So they tell us the inside story about that as well. So let's get right into it. How did this project get started? Was it a matter of Travis, you going to Nick and saying, hey, I want to make some music, or what was the beginning of Girlfriends?
Yeah, it was actually all thanks to Instagram. So I've known Nick since, I want to say like 2014, 2015. He filled in on drums for this Christmas charity concert I was doing back with my solo project. And we just hit it off, man. And, we stayed in contact ever since. And December, I was driving and scrolling Instagram, which I know I probably shouldn't have been doing, but hey, we wouldn't be here if I hadn't been. And Nick posted.
Yeah, big shout out to driving and scrolling.
Yeah, don't. I wouldn't recommend it. But hey, if you gotta do it, you might come out with a sick band. Yeah, I saw Nick post a story of him playing drums with Feldy actually for Goldfinger, and he posted it and he said, "I miss touring so much." And I felt the same way. And it was like right before we were gonna go on Christmas break. So I saw the story, I just dialed him immediately. And I was like, yo, dude, like I saw your post. I was like, I feel the same way. We should do something together. Cause I've been wanting to make music again, but I wanted to do something totally different. And he's like, what are you thinking? I'm like, I think we should just do it, you and me, like a cool 2-piece. He was like, yeah, he's like, well, obviously we're going away for the holidays. Let's meet up, first week of January, and we'll get in the studio and kind of talk about everything. So that was the plan. And then ironically, I got really sick first week of January. I came down with like the flu. It wasn't COVID, I've come to find out.
Travis actually passed it along to me too. I think I might have been sick before Travis, and then Travis came, was sick, and then got me sick again. So like the top of the year just really started off on an interesting note for all of us.
It's a good way to bond.
I have venereal warts.
Now that you didn't share that though from those two, that was something completely separate though, right, John?
Nope, I got it from Nick.
I haven't been able to kick it. It's been like a long process of figuring that out.
So John,
sorry, John.
With Nick being a founder or co-founder of Big Noise, I'm sure this was just a natural fit for you and a no-brainer to be a part of as well.
This was absolutely a no-brainer. I mean, we wrote Farewell. Was that the first song?
Yep.
We wrote together.
First, California was second. Yeah.
So Farewell in California, I was like, this is something so special. And I'd known Travis for 5-6 years now, and Nick and I obviously have a label together, and he's the drummer in my band. So this was like such a perfect fit for what I do as far as production. I mean, this is just exactly what I wanted to do at the time, just the style of music that we're doing. And I just immediately knew that this was going to be an album. This wasn't going to be a one-off for me.
And Travis and Nick, you guys have both been involved in so many different genres of music, different projects. What made you want to specifically focus in on the subgenre of pop punk? Because California, Eyes Wide Shut, big time pop punk there. They're so good, but I was curious as to why you wanted to specifically nail in on that subgenre.
Yeah, I mean, I'll speak for myself, but that's the scene I grew up in. That was the genre and kind of the whole thing of why I started making music in the first place. Like Blink-182, Green Day, Good Charlotte, like those were the bands that made me pick up a guitar and like start playing with my friends in the garage, and my musical evolution just kind of like took me to certain places, but I always embraced it. Even when I was doing my solo project, it was primarily kind of hip hop. There were, those kind of nostalgic influences in there. And I mean, I headlined the Warped Tour in 2012, like I never kind of lost sense of the things that got me to where I was going.
I'm the same. I grew up on bands like Blink and just like idolizing, Travis and all these guys that were just epic drummers in that space. It was just great timing for us to get with a guy like Feldy, who's obviously been such a legend in this pop punk space for so long, and obviously making incredibly current records still today, you know, with those bands, just like he was doing in the 90s. I've never had the opportunity to be in this style of music before, you know, and so I think just obviously having such respect for what Travis has done in the past, and kind of my urge to even wanting to get into a sound that has a style for so long and just not getting the opportunity with some of the bands that I played with in the past. And so it's kind of like the perfect storm, you know, with Feldy and I having a label together, him being, you know, the legend that he is in the production world around this stuff, and then Travis, you know, having that background too. I think it just kind of all clicked together.
Feldy and I worked together on my solo shit back in 2015, but nothing ever came out, you know? And like, you know, this dude produced all of my favorite records when I was growing up. And so, you know, when Nick and I were talking about like, who do we go in with? It was like, Feldy's the only guy.
Very cool. And Travis, so it is a bit of a 180 for you, doing a lot of hip hop in the back, or in your earlier part of your career. But it sounds like you're saying this just made complete sense, even though you've done a lot of hip hop. Pop punk seemed to make sense because of your influences, because of your relationship with John and Nick, and it just seems like it worked out well.
I haven't released music in 4 years, you know, and I was on tour for, you know, 7 or 8 years of my life, 9 months out of the year. And there came a point when like I got sick of playing those songs, right? I became like uninspired. And I knew like if I came back to releasing music, I wanted it to be completely different. And, you know, I wanted to write songs that I wanted to write. And I think a lot of what helped me is like writing for other artists and, you know, producing records the 3 years that I wasn't releasing my own music. It was like really like kind of like finding those sounds and being like, all right, I'm finding a lot of success doing this for other people. Why am I not doing it for myself?
Sure.
You know, and when Nick and I got together, it was just like, it was super exciting. And we were like little kids, you know, it was like, well, what, you know, we could do this and we could do this. And then when we decided on the band name, I got to say it's top 5 band names ever in the history of music, you know, like I'm not kidding. It's like the Beatles, and like I'd say Girlfriends is better than the Beatles. I have to be honest.
Did the name just pop into somebody's head, or how did that work out?
So yeah. I was driving to the studio. I was driving to the studio to meet up with Nick. This is before we had any songs. We had no songs yet. And I wrote down 5 names on the notes app in my phone. And when I got to the studio, I told Nick, I was like, yo, I think I got some names. And he's like, well, let me hear them. And the first one at the top of the list was Girlfriends. And I said Girlfriends. And Nick was like, that's it. And I was like, wait, for real? And he's like, yeah, no, he's like, that it's the best.
We don't need to hear it.
I was like, do you want to hear the other 4 names that I have? He's like, no, that's it. And we're just like, cool. So we had a name for the band before we had any music, which sometimes I think is the most important part, you know?
It helped us, to just figure out what lane we wanted to keep the music in. I think of, you know, Girlfriends as a name and as a brand helped us establish the sound and the feel for what we wanted to do, for sure, which was also a thing in the beginning, at least for me. I think Travis had more of an idea of exactly in his mind how he wanted this whole thing to sound. And in the beginning, when we were trying to figure out, well, what direction do we want to take this, you know, like how's this thing going to stand out and be unique? For me, it wasn't as clear as it was to Travis, which was super cool. And I think Feldy just helped really tie it in to be this really awesome sound.
Well, you know, Feldman is a big fan of band names with the letters G and the F in them.
Yeah, Goldfinger. Goldfinger is how it all started. And these guys were joking about making MAGA hats, you know, Make America Girlfriends Again, which I thought was so fucking funny. But we're not going to do that.
Well, they're up on our merch store now, Feldy. Actually, you missed it.
They sold out. That's why you haven't seen them. They sold out in 1 minute.
I want to ask you, you know, you've been such a backbone for punk rock and pop punk for the past 30 years, Goldfinger, then all the incredible production work. What's it like for you to see just a continued stream of bands continue to come along, but then also this young generation of people come in and be interested in this music that's been around for a couple of decades that you've really been a huge part of?
Let's keep it coming. I'm not going to complain at all. You know, I was trying to throw a little ska into Girlfriends. I remember the first week, I'm like, let's do a Pick It Up. And they shut that down. They shut that down really quick.
I threw the saxophone out of the studio. I just picked it up and chucked it.
Yeah, the jazz flute didn't work out so well. I think that there's always going to be a place for great songs with like just simple chords. And that's kind of what I've always done since I was a kid. It's like, I was never really a musician in the dictionary sense of the word. I mean, I can sort of read music, but I'm really like, I'm not the greatest player, but I've always tried to focus on songwriting. And I think that, you know, with this Girlfriends record, we made, I mean, it's so hard. We were trying to make a 10-song album and keep it really concise, and around 28 minutes is kind of where Dookie falls at 28 minutes. The Weezer Blue album falls at 28 minutes. Nirvana Nevermind falls at 28 minutes. We were trying to get to that, but we just couldn't we just couldn't do it. We have 14 songs now because we're so stoked on the songs. And I think at the end of the day, like I always say, song is king, and we just have these amazing songs. And I think most of the classic pop punk bands, you know, not that I wouldn't even really classify Girlfriends as pop punk. I mean, I think it's kind of like pop rock, and there's definitely like it's a wide spectrum, but there are, you know, there's live drums on everything. And so, I mean, it is a rock band, I guess, but man, the songs are so timeless to me.
Very cool. And Nick, you were telling me beforehand that you guys started recording this or putting this together back in March, like right when coronavirus hit. So this had to be just a completely different process potentially compared to what you've done in the past.
Coronavirus wasn't the reason why we created an album. You know, Travis and I have been talking about doing this for a long time. And, you know, thankfully that allowed us to kind of open up some time to be more creative and to just, you know, without the coronavirus thing happening, I don't think we would have had, it just allowed us to get really focused and spend a lot of time just figuring out what we wanted it to be and to write music and to stay creative. And so we looked at it as a really positive opportunity to just try and create an amazing album.
Yeah, we had sessions before, obviously everything became super serious, but they were like, you know, we'd do like 2 days, you know, a week, and then we'd have like a week off. So I think when the whole lockdown thing happened, it just, and like everyone had to kind of stay home, it was like, well, instead of staying home, let's just stay at Feldy's house and, you know, like live in the studio. And so for that, like we were very fortunate in that regard that we kind of just locked down in one place and focus on the music. But yeah, I mean, you know, this has been something Nick and I have been working on since December. We made the best of a shitty situation.
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
Travis, I read an interview where you were saying that a lot of the writing process was very organic. It's about what you were feeling at the time when you were writing the song. So I'm sure that was probably almost maybe cathartic to be able to write and just put, you know, your emotions to the paper and put out music that was very personal for you.
Dude, the whole recording process of this album was literally one big therapy session. Like I went through the most traumatic time in my life in January. It was kind of like the only place that I wanted to be because, you know, when you work with John, you like start a session, he just sits you down and asks like, how are you feeling today? And, you know, some days I'd walk in there and I'd be crying. Some days I'd walk in there and I'd be okay. You know, some days I'd walk in there and we'd be laughing. And so it was like kind of taking advantage of everything that I was feeling and everything that I was processing and kind of letting it come out in the songs. And, you know, when you listen to this record, it's definitely the most vulnerable I've ever been. It's the most transparent I've ever been in my music. And I think that's, you know, I think that's why the songs are that good.
What are some of the big themes and what are some of the takeaways you want some of the fans and listeners to really get from this album?
I want them to know that, you know, this isn't a side project for me and Nick. Like we really put everything that we have into this record and it's only the beginning. And, you know, when you listen to this album, it's definitely dealing and talking about like, you know, a lot of my demons that I've had, you know, being in this industry for 10 years, experiencing highs of success and like low lows, and kind of like how to make the best of it. And honestly, like all the good that can come out of it. I feel like a lot of people can, you know, get into a position where they become successful and they lose who they are, you know, and that definitely happened to me. And this record's kind of about finding it all again.
Nick, just being a part of this for you, doing so much in the background, and just what was the experience like working with this trio of people?
It was great. I mean, it was refreshing. It's been so refreshing for me to work, honestly, with a guy like Travis. I know I've just been talking about how amazing Travis is, but he really is. He's a great guy. And it's just refreshing to see, like, to be in a room with someone who actually writes their own music and comes from a place of just being authentic and a great songwriter mixed with another great songwriter. and like, you know, just feeling the authenticity that happens when you create music like that was super special for me, at least with like the three of us in a room. You know, we created the whole album. There was no like, you know, Girlfriends doesn't have a, you know, a guitar player and a bass player and a keyboardist and things like that, right? It's me and Travis, and Feldy was kind of really the third member of this band, you know, and to kind of get in there and be able to be, you know, play the guitar on parts, play the keys on parts, drum on all kinds of stuff, and just create this thing from a musical side, but also having Travis just be so quick and so like efficient with his songwriting. It was just really cool. It was like the three amigos just creating a band, you know. It was awesome.
And it's cool to have, you know, this level of honesty and trust with people like Nick and John, because, you know, there'd be days when like I'd write something and, you know, Nick will be like, that's not good enough, you know, like you could beat it. Or, you know, I show Feldy a lyric and he's like, that's it. And I'm like, I don't think it's good enough. He's like, you're overthinking it, you know? So it's like, and I remember like when we started making the record, like I was like scared to like sing and like write in front of Feldmann, just because of like how much, you know, I love like the songs that he writes. And so like once you get over that and it's just like me and him like on an acoustic guitar and, you know, we get a song done in 30 minutes, it's like, it's almost effortless. And then Nick comes in and, you know, he has such a vision for like how he wants things to sound, like kind of like the sonics of it. It's cool being in a room with those two, because it's like there are no bad ideas. You know, like John says, you know, the best thing for the song always wins. And it's cool to have people to bounce ideas off of that you can really trust and that'll give you honest, you know, kind of feedback.
I'll go to John for this one. You've been in countless rooms, production work, and worked on so many albums. Is there something maybe unique or different about this particular project and Girlfriends that you want people to know about, maybe compared to all the great work that you've done for the past couple of decades?
Well, Nick, you know, has a propensity for like multi-instrumentalist, you know, he's able to pick up guitar, like he, you know, the Eyes Wide Shut's the second single that just came out, and that guitar part that comes after the hook, like he just, you know, wrote that part in his head, picked up a guitar, played it like maybe a couple takes. I mean, it's just, you know, he's such a great musician overall. It's just, it doesn't happen with a lot of drummers that are able to actually come up with melodic hooks and play the guitar and play the keyboards and do what he does is a pretty rare find. That was super rad for me. And Travis is one of those guys, like he'll write a lyric, you know, we'll kind of go back and forth for a minute, and he'll come up with like, you know, he'll go outside and, you know, kind of just get in his zone and write a verse. And I've never seen anyone be able to kind of write a verse out and then just he has it memorized immediately. I've never met someone that's so good with words and is able to just, you know, nail it. So it's like we didn't have to write, like we were able to write songs, like write a song in a day and then do most of the lead vocals the same day when it was super fresh in our minds and in our hearts, you know, in our spirit. Like the song would come out and I'd record his vocals the same day. And it was just amazing to watch just how, you know, talented and quick and amazing Travis was in the studio, because the stuff we had done prior was a bit different, and I didn't really get as much time with Travis. And this time it was like, God, I was so blown away by how talented these guys are. Except in ping pong, I crushed Travis every single time. I just destroyed Travis. Not Nick. I mean, no, I'm just kidding.
I mean, I think I'm also the only other person that Feldy's met that drinks more coffee than him, and he's still a little bit bitter about that.
It's true.
I got a young bladder, baby. I got a young bladder.
I'm guessing that's probably what it was like. You guys come into John's house, and you said you were staying there for a long period of time. You wake up, you pound the coffee, you get to the songwriting, the recording. That had to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, and if we ever got, you know, like stuck on something, we never like stayed in the studio and tried to force it. It's like, you know, we'd go in the backyard and make food, we'd play ping pong, and I don't think there was ever like a shortage of laughs. You know, even when I was all fucked up and emotional, like we still had fun every single day, and that's why like it was a great distraction, you know, for all of the heavy shit that was going on in my personal life. I wish that there was a camera on every day that we were in the studio, because like the amount of gold, you know, that we would have captured is it hurts to think about.
Well, I was impressed with Travis. You have a bit of a acting background, but John and Nick did a really good job, I thought, in the music video for Girlfriends. You guys, pretty impressive acting. I really enjoyed that.
only took 1,000 takes, dude.
Yeah, on my 1,000th take, we figured it out.
Bro, John's a fucking natural, dude. It was like I actually swapped places with the director for John, like the guy who directed our video. His name's Dustin. But he came up to me. He's like, I think you should direct John, because like, you know, he's a fan of Feldmann, and he was like kind of like nervous around him, and he's like, you know, I don't want to like tell him what to do. He's like, you do it. And so like I was like, literally like BTS. I'm like, all right, now you're excited. Now you're throwing the paper, and John just, I mean, dude, he's the best part of the video. Feldmann is the best part of the video.
He is.
My dad even called me. My dad called me, and you know, my dad is like 73, so he doesn't know like punk rock or like, but he's like, oh my God, Trav. He's like the casting director, when he throws the paper and he says woo, he's like, I laughed so hard.
Yeah, I've had a lot of experience smacking dudes' butts. So a piece, you know, for sure. And yeah, I always beat the shit out of the bands I work with. So it was pretty easy to beat the shit out of these guys in the video. It was fun. It was really fun.
I had kind of, from John, and maybe I'm way off here, I kind of had a bit of a Breaking Bad vibe. Like if they make a comeback for that show, I could see you being casted in some sort of role. It was really, really funny.
Thanks. It was so fun to do. It was such a great video. I've watched it probably 100 times. My kids are like, why are you moving your arms around so much in the video? I'm like, I'm acting, kids. God damn it.
So what's coming up next? I mean, obviously right now, coronavirus is tough to promote. It's tough to get out and play live music. You can still promote, but how are you guys getting the word out? I'm guessing social media, different avenues, but what's that process like?
It's strictly like just having a conversation with our fans, you know. It's creating content that we want to put out into the world. Obviously, Nick and I, we want nothing more than to be on the road and be playing these songs live, but you know, we've had conversations, and it's like, since we don't know when this is going to end and the world's going to open back up, we might as well make as much music as we can, and you know, maybe we'll have 2 albums out by the time we can go on the road again.
Sure.
That's the goal, for sure. Yeah, October 9th, album number 1 will drop from Girlfriends. Album 2, you know, who knows, but maybe May.
October 2nd.
Yeah, October 2nd.
Yeah, our second album comes out October 2nd, and our debut comes out October 9th. So it's gonna be really, really good, man.
Well, October 9th, maybe October 2nd for the second, but October 9th for sure for that first album. We're so pumped. The first 2 songs are great, and then you said 14 are potentially in the works, so it's gonna be really exciting. We can't wait for it.
Thanks for having us.
We appreciate it.
Thanks so much, Ryan. Good to see you, buddy.
You too. Stay safe. We appreciate it. Big thanks to Travis Mills and Nick Groves from the band Girlfriends for chatting with us. Producer John Feldmann as well. Their album comes out on October 9th. They have 2 singles out right now, California and Eyes Wide Shut. And thank you for tuning in to APTV. Please click on some of our other links and other videos, and we'll chat with you next time.